And that inner essence of Hashem is one with Hashem. So you see, K'de'isa v'Rambam. Shehu hamada, hu hayodeh, v'hu hayediyah. That when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, him and his wisdom, it's all one. We explained that that's different than us. We know things through three ways, i.e., there's me, the knower, there's the object that I want to know, and then there's the power of me to know that thing. Hashem knows the world intrinsically. He knows the world by knowing himself. Everything is within Hashem. So that unity of Hashem, that we all come from that place, and called Chachma Atzilus, and we're nishtalshel all the way down to this world. But the essence of where we all come from is the same place. Meaning, our souls come from the same place as Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why when you see a Yid, there should be a feeling of you're so holy, no matter who it is. Even someone that's gone very far. It doesn't make a difference, because his soul comes from Chacham Atzilus, from the highest place. This thing, you cannot fully understand that. Notice the diuk, the Rambam also says, no human can fully understand God's unity because we exist in a different system. It's not as if God's wisdom is so much more than ours. For example, if a 5-year-old comes into the shiur of Rav Chaim Kanievsky, or goes into an advanced astrophysics, so they know that the professor, or Lahavdil of Chaim, is much smarter, wiser than they are. But could they get there? Yeah, the distance is great, but is it unsurmountable? No, because it's in the same category of knowing. It's not as if God is even wiser than Reb Chaim, and then one day you could get there. No, God's wisdom is an entirely different system. It's an entirely different category, categorically different, because his wisdom is completely unified with Hashem himself. We can't fully understand this, al-Buriya, that's a diuk, because we can understand it, but not fully. And we're going to spend all of eternity getting this deeper and deeper, understanding God's unity. K'dichsiv, like the Pasuk says in the Navi, ha'cheker aloika timtzo, that somebody who's looking for God, i.e. and is cheker, is investigating to the deepest depths and will actually figure God out. Timtza, you can find such a person, bitamiyah, v'ksiv. And the Pasuk says, Ki loy machshavoi sai machshavoi seichen v'goyim. Because not are my machshavas your machshavas. My machshavas are completely unified with me. Your machshavas are not. That being said, the father, going back to our analogy, the father and his son, the son that's coming out of the father's mind at the moment of conception, the father's thought is deeply unified with the father. But in the Nimshal, Hashem in the thought is way more, not even more, in greater, more categorically, a different category of unification.
How is the connection between a father and son with the thought in the moment of the conception?
Yes. That's where the son comes from, yeah.
And they make the same thoughts?
Yeah, that's why so much is written in both in Nigla and Nister, that a parent has to have very holy thoughts during that time, and not just become an animal. And therefore, does that mean that God forbid if a person was born, to such a, horrible one-night stand in Vegas, that he can't be a holy person? No. We're going to talk about that at the end of the chapter. It just means that he might be more disadvantaged. The essence of the soul comes from Hashem, but the levushim of the nefesh come from that union. And therefore, you can have an Avram Avinu that comes from a Terach. You can have such a thing. Terach wasn't exactly having holy thoughts. It was the biggest idol worship in the world. But you can still get an Avram Avinu. And isn't that amazing, the chizik, that our entire nation begins with an Avram Avinu? Isn't that a chizik? No matter where you come from, what you can achieve, but it means that there's work. Yeah.
But to what degree? I mean, if you have a autistic kid, does that mean that you somehow messed up in that moment?
No, it just means that there'll be more spiritual insensitivity. it's going to be harder for them. Harder for them. The soul itself, it's not talking about that God forbid that they have certain disadvantages like that. We don't know. But what we do know is to the degree of the thoughts, it creates more or less communication between the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Bahamis. And that means, is the Nefesh Elokis able to communicate and get the body excited about Torah mitzvahs? Or is the Nefesh Elokis like really covered over, sloppy Joe covered over, and like the body feels like he's the only man d'amar here? David HaMelech was the classic example of a very intense Nefesh Bahamis who completely destroyed it to become the Tzaddik Gomer. Avram Avinu also. Avram Avinu came from Terach. In the end of Terach's life, he did tshuva, but not when he was being moiled to Avram. So now, the kasha that you should have is, if we all come from the same place in a Kadosh Baruch Hu's moyach, i.e. Chochmah Atzilus, then shouldn't all the neshamas be the same? You hear that's what the Balatine is saying. The af, that af is a kasha. The af, and even though you might say sheyesh revavos mine chaluke madregis, that there are revavos, there are tens of thousands of types of different levels of neshamas, gavoya al gavoya, higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, le'ain kates, without end. There's Ichimaya, this Rashi, Shimon, Moses, like, and now there's different neshamas. Okay, the Avos Hakadoshim. Kamay Gaidul Milas Nishmas Avos, like the level of the Avos, the Moshe Rabbeinu, Allah Hashem. Al Nishmas Dereseinu, more than our door. Notice the next words of the Balatanya. Elu de Ikfus of the Neshiva. In the times of the Balatanya, in the 1700s, he already said they were in Ikfus of the Neshiva. So where are we now? Even more. The bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the athlete's foot and the bottom of the foot. Or mamish at the end of the end of the end of the end.
He's saying that all the neshama, they are unified because
They're all unified because they all come from Chochmah Atzilus. But, and therefore, why do we have differences in the neshamas? We know that the avos are on a different level. If the avos walked in here, we'd fall down at a kedusha. And our neshamas are less sensitive. Why is that? If we all come from the same place, Chochmah Atzilus. That's the kasha.
because we are in constant evolution.
He's going to answer it now.
And what is the difference between, in this aspect, neshama Yehudi and neshama Goy?
So we spoke about that already. Shehein bechinas akevayim mamish. That our neshamas are like the heel mamish lagabi amoich v'aroish, regarding the neshamas of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is like a roish. V'chein b'kol dor v'dor, and not only that, every generation yesh roshei alfei Yisrael. Every generation has their heads. Not only, by the way, this is all hinting to a concept from the Arizal called that the entire of Klal Yisrael is what's called B'soid Guf Echad. We are all like one giant body. Just like a body has different parts, and there's different energy in different parts of the body, but they all work together. But you can't say that the life force in the foot is the same as the life force in the heart or the brain. Those areas have much more revealed life force. So the avos are like the brain. David HaMelech was like the heart. So the brain of somebody is like revealed godliness. The heels is like dead skin. So our neshamas, that's the muscle, are like the dead skin on the bottom. We don't feel that much. Whereas in earlier generations, they were like the head, there was electricity. Everything was alive, it was lebendig. And not only that the earlier generations, i.e. the head, moving down this supernal body, nothing physical, the concept. Going to the akevayim, that were like the least spiritually sensitive generation. Even every generation, there's like a head, and a heart, and a kidney, and adrenal glands, and femurs, and metacarsals, and tarsals, and etc. So there's just so much division in neshamas, but if we all come from the Chachma and Atzilus, that unified point of godliness, then shouldn't all of our neshamas be the same? Bechinas roish v'moich legabe nishmas hahamoin ve'amaratzim. Bechein nefashos legabe nefashos. Not only the higher levels of the neshama, but even the nefashos, there's differences. Ki kol nevesh kalulam and nevesh ruach neshama. Because on all levels, even the nefesh, the most animating lower part of the person, there's different levels of how much God has revealed in that place. Okay, here's the answer. Mikol Makai. Nevertheless, you're right, there are differences in the shamas. But nevertheless, Shayrish Kol Nefesh Ruach Neshama, the Shayrish of where everybody comes from, Kulam Eroish, Kol Adregas Ad Soif Kol Dargin, from the highest level of Moshe Rabbeinu to the lowest level, some faraway person who is drinking, old English out of a brown paper bag in Oakland, California, when he should be in shul putting on tefillin. Hamalubish beguf amei haaretz v'kal shebekalim. The lowest, furthest, unsensitized, the lowest feeling, yiddelis. Nevertheless, Nimshach memoyach ha'elyon. They all of us come from the same place. Do you hear that? Shul chachma ilah kaviyachol. We come from Hashem's chachma that sealus. Our neshamas come and was inseminated into existence through Hashem thinking. B'ni b'char Yisrael. Bana matem la'Hashem alekeichem. Kamashal aben animshach memoyach ha'av. Like the son that's coming out of the moyach of the father. It's beautiful. Shafilat siparne raglav. That even the toenails of the kid Nishav metipa zu mamish. Because let's play it through. When the father has the thought, that thought is the spiritual essence of the child. And that thought, we said, comes down and turns into a seed. And then the mother takes that seed and what does she do with it? She unwinds it. But it was all there in the beginning. Which means, when the father gave the thought, that consciousness, he's not just giving the kid a head. What's he giving the kid? And the head of the kid's going to be able to think about abstract things and think about Hashem. What's he also giving the kid? The lowest, most physicalized, base, concealed parts of the kid. That's the toenails, which, as I understand, are one of the last things to develop. Meaning to say, back now to the Nimshal, even the toenails of the Jewish people, the unsensitive, lowest, just that don't feel, are so holy. Because they all came from the Father's thoughts. It was all there. It was all in the seed. So you came from the same seed as Moshe Rabbeinu. That seed, it's the Chevra. We're all there. It's all that seed from the Father. In this case, it's Hashem, and Hashem and His Chachma is all one. It's mamish, the Yiddish and the Neshama. That's why it's pure goodness. It's like no matter what toenail, it's pure goodness. It's undiluted elokus mamish. That when the child stays in the mother 9 months, all of a sudden it's revealed what was there the whole time in the seed. The yard madrega, and the baby goes down, i.e., it becomes more concealed. The seed is more revealed godliness because it's like more spiritual ki'ilu. As the baby is growing, it's becoming more concealed. There's more tzimtzum. You get that? Yeah. Because you might think like there's less tzimtzum. I see a baby. Tzimtzum means concealment. Look, there's a baby. Exactly. It's more concealed because the baby is like this thing. Whereas where did he come from? But let's go down to the mashal. It came from the seed of the Father. That is like way more connected to the Father, that seed. It's like him. It's even spiritual essence. It's like as if it's more the Father than all of a sudden this kid, he's like his own guy. So that's what it means, more tzimtzum. as the souls of Klal Yisrael came down and down and down, so to speak, we were unwound over the generations, and all of our souls became then now expressed. And that's what it means. It looks like we're all different, but if you trace us back, we all come from the same source, the thoughts of Hashem. And even once the child is born, the child is still connected in a wondrous way. He's still connected in a wondrous way to the Father, because it all came from the Father's thoughts. The Father's thoughts are very profoundly experienced in the mind of the child. So a lot of people notice that they start thinking like their father. But not just the thoughts, even the toenails. Because where are the toenails getting their energy from? The mind power of the sun. And where's the mind power of the sun coming from? That's clearly from the mind of the Father.
See, part of it is toenails.
Toenails. So the whole child, in this case, all of the souls of Yisrael, is profoundly connected to the mind of the Father. V'gam achshav beben yinikas et tziparnayim b'chiyus and nimshav b'moyach sheberosh. The toenails of the kid are getting their life force from the mind of the kid. That's how. No, your mind is pumping energy through the whole body. That's why so much healing can happen when the mind puts energy in different areas to heal it. Kedis b'Gemara, like the Gemara says in Ida, loyvin shemena gidim v'atzamas v'tziparnayim. The father gives the white parts of the child, the mother gives the red parts, and Hashem puts in the neshama. It says that Adam's clothing in Gan Eden, they were like toenails. Interesting, they were like toenails. They got their life force from the mental energy of Adam. I.e., the most external parts of Adam, and for us, our nails, like this is external stuff, is getting nourished from our brain energy, which, by the way, that's tzaddikim. That's where we're going with this. And the brain energy is directly, completely connected to the brain of the Father. So in the Nimshal, the souls of Klal Yisrael, no matter who they are, biggest tzaddikim to the toenails, everyone's getting their life force from the head, tzaddikim, and the tzaddikim are getting direct life force from the moyach and the av, from Hashem. Even though the whole sun came from Hashem, the whole being is from Hashem. All the neshamas are from Hashem, but the life force is flowing through the tzaddikim. You're starting to see a little bit more like the role of tzaddikim here. That a toenail can't say, I'm not into my brain. Who needs the brain? Well, that would be like a horrible idea, because you need the energy coming and flowing from the head. So too the souls of Yisrael, we need the energy coming from the head. Those are the tzaddikim. Yeah.
But practically speaking, how does somebody who's very low level, right, like toenail, how do they realistically, like, get their energy from inside it?
So the first thing to know is that they already have everything inside of them, because they come from the mind of the Father. Which means it's not like you have to inject something in them that's not already there. That's why sometimes a person comes to a tzaddik, or even without a tzaddik, comes to a mitzvah or something, and something just wakes up inside of him. The Baal Tanya in chapter 18 is going to mention the phenomenon of Jewish martyrdom, which we speak about from time to time. Because how could you have somebody that didn't keep any mitzvahs, and then he's told in the Holocaust to do this illicit relation, or I'll kill you? And he doesn't mind. He does a varies. Bow down to this idol, or we kill you. And he says, I can't bow down to the idol. Where does that come from? I feel abchusim, even mamish, people that were so far away. The answer is because they have that point inside of them that's totally pure. It's called av mesuteres. Someone just has to wake it up. So you have to think a practical thing. How do we get, it's basic here. How do you get a person? You have to be strategic. What's the language that's going to work for them? But you're not working from a place of like trying to convince anybody. It's already inside of them, this ore. Because then the person just comes to a Shabbos day and is like, so nice. I love this. Speaking to some of the foundations guys today, like they just, there's a feeling of like, I'm in yeshiva, it like makes sense. It makes sense. And it's familiar to me. The answer is because you already have the neshama inside of you. Okay, Bezrat Hashem will pick up from this, and the next part's actually going to be on tzaddikim, and hopefully we'll finish the pair. Yeshua Kohen.